If you are not actively marketing, you are not building a business, you're building a secret. And also kind of from a hyper-local perspective, and not be too broad because you're going to light money on fire.
I think we can also agree we're going to need digital marketing. So I would encourage anybody that's out there, hey, try it again, because it does work. And once you really find the unlock in digital marketing, you're going to want to double down.
People will go look at you online. They will go check you out. And I think hearing some of this may sound like it's super in the weeds. It's kind of overkill. No.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to Entry&Exit. My name is Collin. This is my co-host, Steven. We are going to unpack the security and fire industry to give you actionable advice to help you grow, scale, and ultimately exit your business.
Last week, we talked about sales, marketing, technology, really more in broad strokes and heavily oriented around farming your existing book of business to fuel your growth. And today, we're going to really dive into more kind of practical, tactical elements on the new logo side. And the core focus really is in niching down, having a consistent message for marketing, defining your ideal customer profile, and really defining and differentiating between your lead versus sales process, which ultimately all should equate to improving your close rate. And that's also going to be driven by being multi-threaded, deepening relationships with the prospect, and having better information to go off of.
Are you still missing calls after hours or losing leads while your team sleeps? That's why we work with Avoca AI, owned and operated exclusive call center partner. They answer 24/7, sound like a real human, and plug straight into your CRM to book jobs, send quotes, and even revive old leads. There are plenty of AI call centers out there, but we trust Avoca because we've seen the results firsthand. More booked jobs, less wasted spend, and no more missed revenue. See it in action at the link below. Start winning more jobs today with Avoca.
Yeah, we're going to get practical and tactical. I like that. P and T. We're going to get practical and tactical, baby. We're going to get it going with the tactical and the practical advice. I think we're going to kick it off with, where are we today? What does the industry look like today? There are some unique challenges in this industry. I'm going to name a few that I have experienced, and I'll give you a couple real quick. Number one, this industry is typically characterized, especially in the sales process, by being single-threaded to a single point of contact at your customer or prospect. So what that means is you get a phone call. They call, into your main line. It's the facility manager. You go out, you do your site walk with the facility manager. You present some pricing to the facility manager, and you follow up with the facility manager, and you never talk to anybody else in the organization. That could be the facility manager's boss. That could be the facility manager's peers, or the folks that work in or around the facility manager. You're single-threaded, you're going to have a lower likelihood of closing that deal. Another unique challenge is, and this is, I think, maybe the biggest one that I've experienced, particularly around what we would call retrofit or renovate, or customers where it's not ground up construction, which is this: you're not always comparing apples to apples. Your customers are going to get 2, 3, 4 bids, and very rarely are those bids going to be apples to apples. It may not even be the same number of cameras. So if you go in and they say, yeah, I need new cameras. Well, you may go in and say, okay, well, let's replace all your existing cameras. We're going to replace one for 20 cameras. Your competitor may go in and say, oh, you don't need 5 of those. Let's just do 15 cameras. Your other competitor may say, we're going to do 22 cameras. You're not comparing apples to apples, not just on the scope of work, but a lot of times on the technology, even most commonly on the technology. You may provide one manufacturer, your competitor may use another, and that makes it really hard for your customer, or potential customer rather, to actually make a decision. And guys, we're going to talk today about how to overcome that problem. That is going to be the single biggest deal killer for you, is not allowing your customer to understand what apples to apples comparison is. So we're going to talk about that. And then the last thing I think is just, man, there is a lot of competition, and it's broad in scope. You've got everybody from the guy that's an independent operator that works out of his truck, all the way to the mid-sized independent security and fire providers to the national providers that are, servicing in every major city. And so it's difficult. Every competitor has a little bit of a different flavor of their strengths and weaknesses, from pricing to value to reputation to social proof. So there is a stiff competition in the security and sales space, particularly in security.
The thing that we've definitely, just to double tap on one of those items, which is better information. You're not going to get better information if you're not multi-threaded. If you only have a single source of information, you're trying to pull things out of different people, whether it is their actual needs, whether it's their, we talked about BANT. You always love to talk about BANT because you're a nerd. And
Let's
so on the budget side, like, do we actually know what the budget is? Is there a conflict internally of what that budget is? What is the actual need? We've recently had a project going on where, there's a need. It's inherent. They have to do something, but maybe there's different thoughts on how they're going to deal with paying for that or financing or what they can actually afford, right? And so the only way that you're going to actually be kind of superior in that process when you're competing with others is to have better information than the next guy or gal.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's what I would say about the current state of the industry as it pertains to marketing. And Stephen, you can give us some nuggets here, some marketing nuggets on what are our competitors doing. Well, the answer is not much, but I will say this: PPC, or pay per click, or Google AdWords, and organic SEO is pretty saturated. There was a time, I would say even as early as 5 to 6 years, 7 years ago, where very few were doing PPC, any type of organic SEO, any type of social media. Very few people were doing it. Now, most people are doing that. And particularly with the onset of AI and enabling you to generate organic content at scale, the proliferation of SEO it's pretty saturated. So if you're not doing that, you're behind. You got to start now. That's your foundation. That's your business card, if you will. That's kind of the front page of your business. Is your website, your PPC strategy, your SEO. So if you're not doing that today, you should try to add a little bit of budget, a little bit of time, and get started on that.
Yeah, I like the business axiom. It's like, if you are not actively marketing, you are not building a business, you're building a secret. And no one's going to know. Maybe your mom's super proud of you. That's great. But especially on the local side, hyper local, a few trucks, you want to grow, you're trying to cross that kind of 1, 2, 3 million top line revenue. You have to be marketing, and it feels painful, right? It's the same thing with hiring a head of sales and kind of that concept. And so being measured in starting to allocate budget to those things, you don't want to overdo it. You probably want to live in that 4 to 8% of top line revenue on your marketing budget, but more than zero. And a lot of you probably are at zero. So you have to get started. And, to drop a marketing nugget, if you are going to go spend, whether with an agency or someone that you've hired that you think has some marketing chops, they can't be spending on terms that are really vague or really broad. It needs to be Tulsa fire alarm inspection as the, kind of keyword that you're targeting, not fire alarm generically or something like that, right? Because there's an incredible amount of spend. And also from an SEO perspective, the more specific and tailored you can get to what you're good at, what's driving your own GP internally. Like let's focus on those services, and also kind of from a hyper local perspective, and not be too broad, because you're going to light money on fire if you're trying to go out in the world and market very broadly.
Well, and one thing you just said that I think is it's a salient point. Don't just give up because your first attempt wasn't successful. right? So we see this so often where an owner starts to get a little bit of cash to be able to reinvest in their business. They know they need to do marketing. They give it one attempt. It feels like they lit the money on fire and they don't try it again. Man, that's like trying to hire an ops manager and the first one doesn't work out and you just don't try it again and you give up on the concept. I think we can all agree we need ops managers as we grow. I think we can also agree we're going to need digital marketing to grow. So I would encourage anybody that's out there, hey, try it again because it does work. So if it's not working, you should get a better agency. You should reach out to somebody that's doing it well. Reach out to us. We can give you as much advice as you want, and we can introduce you to some folks that can help. But I'm telling you, you don't want to give up on it because you'll just be limited. You're just going to limit your growth. And once you really find the unlock in digital marketing, you're going to want to double down. You're going to want to continue to double down.
I think it's similar to hiring salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same type of risk, right? You're doing something. A lot of these businesses in the security industry, especially if they're sub 3 million, sub 2.5 million top line, it's owner-led sales. And so in the same way of taking the risk and spending the time I can't tell you how many owners I've talked to where same thing as the ops side, but they invested time and energy to train a salesperson. It didn't work out. And then they get gun shy. And so it's true on both sides of the house, sales and marketing. You have to start to allocate budget there if you want to kind of break through those revenue ceilings.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about a couple of things that do work that are traditional methods. These are not mind-blowing things. We're not going to talk about, none of this stuff is going to be highly technical digital marketing. And then what we'll do from there is we'll kind of jump into the marketing playbook and we'll kind of share some of the stuff that we're doing, what we think works. And we'll go from there. So a couple of things that I think that still work that you've heard of that you should do would be number one, showing up in person. Have your sales team show up in person, face to face. Man, that might be, maybe we should have named our podcast face to face because we're going to say face to face in person a lot on this podcast because we believe that is one of the magic bullets. People say there's no magic bullets in sales and marketing. I think there is. One of those is face-to-face meetings. That's number one. Number two is multi-channel outreach. Don't just do PPC. Don't just do SEO. Don't just do social media. Don't just do cold email outreach or cold calling. Do all of them. And hey, how about this? You don't have to do them all at scale. You don't have to send out 1,000 cold emails. Why not just send out 25 to 3 customers? Try to make 15 calls to 3 customers. You don't have to go huge, but you should go across many channels. And I think that's pretty universal advice. And the last thing I'll say that continues to work is consistent positioning of your brand. If you're going to roll something out on social media, it better be consistent on your website, on your PPC, on your cut sheets. You want to have consistent messaging, consistent branding. All too often we see this new website that's rolled out with a fancy new logo. And then all the social media posts are using the old logo or the old slang or the old, business motto, whatever. Man, try to tighten that up. Try to get consistent branding and messaging across all of your channels, and you're going to see a little bit more success there.
Yeah, you see the larger regional and national players doing that. And in a past role, in a former life, we were in a software business in a different industry, and we had, at the time, 15 or 16 employees. And we would go to conferences and people thought we had like over 100 employees. And it was for that exact reason. It was, the branding was really consistent. It looked really clean. The copy, the messaging, what you say matters. So what we said in a webinar or, on a social media post or on our website, we use the same slogans, the same kind of catchphrases, the same nomenclature for our services. And it was all really intentional. And it just made us look more formidable. It made us look more credible. And so if you're going, especially on the commercial side, if you're trying to go up market and win larger deals, those things matter. People will go look at you online. They will go check you out, and they will listen to the things you're saying. And so it's important to kind of build that consistency, because it's, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but there is an element of that. Yeah, it's true. And so oftentimes, especially on the more local side, you probably will deliver the best service, the best experience. But larger customers are concerned that maybe you aren't capable. And so if you can kind of show face and show off and be more credible online, it might make that 5% difference that wins you a deal, that gives you an injection of cash that you can then invest into sales and marketing, right? It's very cyclical like that.
Yeah, I think the other side of that coin too that's interesting is a lot of operators that we've worked with, and even the operator that we purchased this business from, would share this axiom, which is that they believe customers would work with them because they're the local brand and they don't need to invest in their marketing and their logo, and that their customers almost found it endearing that they were unpolished. And I think that's a little bit of the wrong perspective. I think that what your customers valued was the personalized touch and service and high levels of communication. And what you think that they're actually valuing or looking for is this kind of unpolished, I'm a local operator. And I think that you can have both. I think you can have a polished brand with consistent messaging and deliver excellent customer service with high levels of communication and still be the great local operator. I think you could do both, and I don't think it has to be very hard. And that kind of brings us over to the marketing kind of playbook, marketing foundation. We're going to do mini episodes on marketing, but we want to talk about a couple specific things around brand positioning. What does it mean to niche down? We talked about that. And then also how to get multi-channel, or how to use multi-channel sales and marketing to develop more leads and ultimately more closed won deals.
Yeah. So let's start on the kind of niching down and ICP. So for us, one of the things that we've really focused on in the last 2 years is on K through 12 and university. Like our business, we have grown a lot on the school side. And so I'm not taking a client testimonial from some oil and gas company to, CIO or some, kind of head of security or whatever it may be on a college campus. It's not as relevant, right? Yeah. So if we have, which this is common sense, but it's not necessarily common practice. So let's focus on a vertical or maybe a couple verticals that we feel confident in, that we have experience in, that we know we can do good work in, that's profitable. And let's leverage those experiences forward to gain further credibility and win new prospects over. And unfortunately, what a lot of people do is just grasp at any possible revenue. And they say, I'm going to go here and do that. I'm going to go over here and do this. And just anything they possibly can find. It's kind of disjointed in terms of the work you're pursuing. And acting from a place of desperation typically doesn't go very well, right? So we're talking about having a much greater level of focus in terms of what type of work you're doing, who you're doing it for, and that ultimately that will have a compounding effect.
Yeah, there's a saying that says the riches are in the niches. And man, we know so many friends who have started companies or software companies where it's like, I am a email messaging platform for plumbing companies that are between 5 and 30 million. And they blow up. These software providers, the ones that are the most niched down are usually the ones that are the most successful. And I think there's a fear, I'll speak as an operator and an owner myself, is like, I think there's a fear that if you go too hard on a given niche, let's just say K through 12 and university, that you're going to have customers that say, oh, well, I'm a multifamily property. I didn't think you did multifamily because all y'all talk about is K through 12. That's not been our experience. We have not had the experience where one industry didn't think we worked in that particular industry because we had a whole bunch of messaging that was targeted to another given industry. And I would say that the more niche down you can get, even down, there's some Steven alluded to this. There's some operational efficiencies that can be gained from it, but also I think a big mistake people make is they think that their value proposition of their company is the same for every industry and every type of customer. And that's just simply not the case. And I think you've probably experienced this when you're working in a given industry. The things that that industry may value is different than what another industry may value. We've had experiences across multiple industries where they're telling us certain things are really important over other really important things. And I'll just give you an example. In the K through 12 example, we get told all the time that the most important thing that we do is our speed to service call and how fast we respond when they have an issue. When there are, schools are, historically understaffed. So when that fire alarm is beeping and they have to send somebody in there every 20 minutes to silence it, man, it can really drive their staff nuts. It can disrupt operations. They need someone out today, not somebody in 2 weeks. So guess what? We've heard that feedback from a lot of folks. What do? We message on that. We message to schools and specifically call out, not, hey, we are the smartest camera installers. That's not what we've heard. We've not heard, man, we're so glad that y'all work with us because you're the smartest camera installers. What they say is, man, we're so glad we work with y'all because y'all show up same day or next day whenever we have an issue. So that's what we message on. So that's a niche, right? So you would want to market your social media, your SEO, your cold outreach, your salesperson, your discovery decks, whatever you're building that the customer is looking at, you would want it to be niched down to those specific value points whenever you're selling.
So going through, again, you might have heard the acronym earlier, ICP, or Ideal Customer Profile. All of this is tied back together. And again, I would go back to, what have you done? Who's your team? Like, what type of work currently that you can actually go execute on are you confident in doing? Like, I think we've all, I can think of a specific job where, we were asked to do something and talk about fake it till you make it. It's like, sure, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you go scramble mode.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about scramble mode.
Yeah.
So what industries do you feel confident in, where the GP's there, where the experience is there? And then let's start to talk a little more specifically about ICP.
Yeah, ICP, man. I think that a lot of people, I didn't know what it was. And people had said ICP. I didn't really know what that meant tactically. What is an ICP? Okay, so an ICP is an ideal client profile that's in a specific industry. So here's an example, right? So an ICP for our alarm masters, for our marketing, would be a director of technology or IT at a K through 12 district that is in a tertiary market that has many responsibilities that may overlap with facilities, that prefers communication to be over phone, and also is responsible for dictating the rest of security scopes of work in their entire district. So they're not just responsible for video, they're responsible for video, fire, access control, PA, all the things. And then what we would really look at is we would say, okay, that is our ideal client profile. That is the person we're targeting. So how do we speak the language of that director of technology? What is the pain points that they experience in their job? Well, I'll tell you one pain point. They get thrown all of the facilities stuff that should be on the facilities manager that ends up on their desk for anything technology. So they assume, well, if it's plumbing, sure, that's facilities. But if there's something wrong with our access control system, that's technology. And that really should be on the director of IT or whatever. And so they get a lot of pain because What they don't really want to be dealing with is service calls. They don't want to be dealing with trying to figure out and troubleshoot things. So those are some pain points. So how do we solve those pain points? We talk about how we're going to be out there tomorrow, how we have fantastic phone support, how we don't always have to send a technician out to fix a problem. We will try to get it handled over the phone first to save on that service call. Those are some messaging tactics that we use to speak to the heart of that director of technology. And let me just be clear. You should not have to do guesswork to figure out who your ICP is. Your ICP exists in your current customer base today. It's probably the guy or gal that sends you a text directly today. That's awesome. That's a champion that you love working with them. And it's a delight when they call you generally. That's a good person to call and run some questions. Hey man, do you mind if I take 5 minutes to ask you a couple questions about your experience with my business and what things resonated? Do a quick ICP interview or a couple ICP interviews and just write down a list. This does not have to be some really intense exercise. It just needs to be something you spend a little bit of brain space on. So that's that ICP. Get as niched down and as specific as possible. This would be the person. Here's the way that I was told this originally. Your ICP is the person that if you could put a billboard in front of their face about your business, you would know exactly who that person is. So we're going to try to build that billboard today, and we're going to talk about how you can do that.
Yeah, it's really good. I've also heard it said before, it's kind of pithy, but like ideal customer profile. I've also heard it intentional customer profile, just like we're going to be hyper intentional. And I think hearing some of this may sound like it's super in the weeds. It's kind of overkill. No, it's not. I promise. We have directly benefited from being very intentional about this. And we're continuing to build out kind of net new ICPs as we grow our business.
Yeah. One thing that works really well too is social proof. And people think social proof. So social proof is what they would think social proof is a customer testimonial or case study. Those are great. You should get those. That kind of falls in the category of what everyone else is already doing. Here's a really quick tactical thing that I think rocks, and we've gotten a lot of feedback on it. We call them customer snapshots. Sometimes they happen organically. Sometimes we ask the customer to do this, but what it is I get an email from a customer and the subject line says, "Hey," and then it literally is like, "Hey, I just want to tell you, you guys were great. We had an issue, Terry came out, he solved the issue. We were racking our brain. We're so thankful Terry was out here. Thanks for the fast service." Here's what I do. I blur out the customer's information. I screenshot that whole email and I throw it on our website and our ads and our social media and our discovery deck. And then I do that 3 or 4 times. There is nothing that screams social proof like an email from a customer. And honestly, I don't know if you've heard the phrase TLDR, too long, don't read. That's what happens with these case studies a lot of times. All these businesses spend all this time and money on case studies and trying to release new case studies every week. It's too long. I don't want to read it. Give me the highlights. Summarize. ChatGPT, summarize, please. Well, I don't think anything summarizes better than a customer email or even like a text message. Screenshot that blue bubble. Shout out to iPhone. And you can get that posted up there too. Man, and I'll tell you what, this is what the software business is already doing. If you go to a lot of these new software providers, you'll see all over their website screenshots of text message bubbles and email snapshots. Those work a lot. We get feedback on it. This is not just something that we think works. We've heard feedback. Our customers tell us it works. So we're going to keep doing it.
Especially a testimonial you have on a website could totally be made up.
Yeah.
And so whenever you have a screenshot from an email, it just feels hyper credible. So let's keep rolling. And I want to dive more into the kind of sales playbook side, tied into some of the things that we've talked about. Because as you build an ICP, you niche down, that starts to impact qualified leads and getting tighter on who you're selling to, and ultimately leading to a higher conversion rate.
Yeah, I want to start with the end in mind when we talk about the sales playbook. What is the end in mind? What's our goal of the sales playbook? Higher volume of qualified leads and a higher percentage close rate. That's what you want. That is the whole purpose of a sales playbook. That is the end chapter of your sales playbook. So you want to drive a sales process and lead process that gives you better qualified leads and gives you a better shot at closing them. Let's start with the why. Why do you want better qualified leads? And I don't just mean a number. So that let's think through the sentence or the phrase, higher number of better qualified leads. Yes, we want more. We actually want more qualified leads. I am going to submit to you today that it would be more damaging for you to have a lead that is unqualified and ends up not closing at the end of a sales cycle than if you never had that lead to begin with. You can only do to certain amount of time. Your sales team is only capable of working a certain number of hours in a week. There are a lot of time vampires out there that are trying to just get information from you, or they were never going to buy from you, or you're not even the fit for them. One example for Alarm Masters is we are not the cheapest provider of security and fire services. We're certainly not the most expensive. We're right there in the middle, probably upper middle. And we want our customers to know that before we ever engage with them. And so we want to make sure that we're disqualifying the folks that are looking for the cheapest, one step above DIY solution. They're not a fit, not an ICP for us. So we want to disqualify those. We also want to give ourselves the best chance of closing that customer. So we're going to spend some time on this today, but how do you give yourself the best chance of closing a customer and giving yourself the best close rate? One, you have the most amount of information. You have the key information. So that would be you understand the customer's budget. And here's number two. This is one people forget all the time. You have a compelling event. Why? Why are they deciding to do this today? Why didn't they do it 6 months ago? And why are they not doing it 6 months from today? Understanding those two pieces of information just as a foundation is going to give you the biggest leg up on your competition. The second thing that improves your close rate is getting multi-threaded. Multi-threaded means having multiple contacts within an opportunity. It doesn't always have to be somebody, like a lot of times people say, oh, get access to power, go to the decision maker or whatever. Yeah, that's important. But I'll tell you what, I've had a lot of deals that I've won by the entry-level facilities manager who had no decision-making authority, but they were huge influencers on the deal, and they helped get it over the finish line. So getting multi-threaded. And last but not least, people want to buy from people they like. So what does that mean? You got to have a good relationship. How do you develop a relationship? Time, baby, time. The more face-to-face meetings and the more time you spend with that prospect, lead, whatever, they're going to give you a higher likelihood of winning that business. So we're going to jump in here, talk about lead process, talk about sales process, and we're going to talk about why we split out our lead process from our sales process.
Yeah, I actually really love so we're both parents. We both have 3 little kids each. And you hear people say kids spell love, Time. Yeah, well, so do customers. It's so good.
Yeah.
And the reality is we've gotten a ton of feedback from people. You spend time with us, you come sit with us, especially the regional national guys, they don't give us the time of day. We'll be there in 3 weeks to do a site walk. So a big advantage as you're growing is being a little more nimble, flexible, and being able to get out early and often to spend time. It's interesting. I think the higher quantity time you spend with a prospect, it inherently is going to translate to a higher percentage likelihood of closing the deal.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
maybe that sounds overly simple.
Yep.
It's hard to do.
True. It's true. Yeah, I would say, I would ask you a question, Mr. or Mrs. Listener. How many deals have you lost where you are on a texting basis with your customer versus how many deals have you lost where you only were email relationship with them, maybe a site walk and the rest was email communication? That should tell you something. That should help kind of paint the picture of what you need to get to. You need to get to a texting relationship, but the way to get to a texting relationship is to build a relationship, is to spend some time. So I totally agree. How do you do that? Well, we're going to kind of jump into lead process versus sales process. We talked a little bit about this on our last pod. And I think people think of a sales process as everything from I'm targeting this customer, they're a prospect versus a lead versus an opportunity. A lot of different definitions of that. I'll share how Alarm Masters thinks about that. A prospect is somebody that you've not made contact with. They don't know you or they don't know you well, and you are trying to develop a relationship within that account. Usually these are ICPs that you believe are a really good fit for you, but probably they haven't heard of you. They become a lead when they've heard of you. Like when you've made some form of contact with them, whether that's an inbound lead or an outbound lead. Maybe a prospect is somebody you're sending a bunch of outbound emails to, and then they respond. Oop, now you've converted a prospect to a lead. Then they respond and they agree to take a phone call, and you've got a whole lead process established here. So what is our lead process? So let's just get super tactical. You can do this however you want to do it, but I like to think about a lead process in the form of keeping us on track, holding my team accountable, and also helping me find out where leads drop out of the process and go quiet or disqualify themselves. So maybe I can improve that step. So my lead process starts with new, meaning a lead has come in, we've made some form of contact with them. Then it goes to contact attempted. So sometimes what that means is like a contact will come inbound to our website because we've been trying to target them. And then we try to reach out to them. We make a contact tip, but they haven't responded yet. Once they respond, we say contact made. Then once contact is made, it really goes into one of three buckets. It's either qualified. We've done some qualification criteria. We'll talk about that on a future pod. You have disqualified. They're not a qualified customer for you. Sometimes disqualified customer just means they want the cheapest solution. You're not going to spend your time on it. Or nurture. Nurture means they're not qualified yet. You should do something with those nurtured leads. Please do something with them. Please don't just disqualify them. Your nurture is your future qualified leads. Okay. Once they're qualified, that becomes an opportunity. So your prospect converts to a lead, which converts to an opportunity. That opportunity has its own sales process. Step one is discovery meeting. So what's a discovery meeting? A discovery meeting is a meeting before a site walk. All too often, the sales reps want to go straight to a site walk because the customer has an urgency. Many times customers have an urgency, but how many times have you gone with the urgent customer and gotten the pricing to them in 48 hours, all for them to ghost you? Man, that is frustrating. So I would, argue that a sales process should be a give and take, a relationship just like anything else. And one of those is a discovery meeting where you get to learn about the customer, you get to learn about their project, and you get to share a little bit about the value of your business to them. This is also a really important step to get information from the customer. Every stage of your sales process should allow you to get more multi-threaded, develop relationship, and get you more information. Those are the three objectives of every single step in the sales process. Discovery meeting allows you to get budget information. Don't give up on the budget question when you say, do you have a budget for this project? And Stephen, what do they say typically when I say, hey, do you have a budget on this project?
No, not specifically. We're not really sure yet. No.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. You know what I've not heard is I have a budget of $18,923.66. And even if they do have that, they're not sharing it with you, at least not initially, but they might at the end. But a lot of times, I'm going to be honest with you, because this has been me as an owner of a business. I don't have a budget because I don't know what it's going to cost me. Is this thing going to cost me $1,000, $10,000, or $100,000? So what do? You anchor price them. If your sales reps don't have anchor pricing, get it to them. Here's what we would say. Hey, Mr. Customer, thanks for sharing that you don't have a budget. You probably have some price expectation, right? Like if I said this was going to be $1 million, you'd probably say that's a little too much. And if I said this is going to be $100, you'd say, sign me up, because you'd be ready to go. So there's somewhere in between, right? So let me just share with you, we have a lot of different options that we can sell you. I'm just going to give you kind of the ballpark down the middle. For every door of access control you have, I'm going to tell you it's going to be about $3,000 a door, roughly. And so if you've got 3 doors, you got about $9,000 for that access control. Where does that fit in your expectation? Pause. Don't say anything. Let them talk and let them give you all the information about their budget that you initially wanted. So use that discovery meeting. Also, use the discovery meeting to find out the compelling event. Why are they doing this today? Did they have a break-in? Did their old system fail? Are they renovating their business? Did a hurricane come in and destroy their system? All of that's good information that you should know. So we start with that discovery, and then we go to that site walk. Or if you're a pro, you're going to try to do multiple site walks. Why would you waste your time to do multiple site walks? Well, because it's more face-to-face meetings. TIME, more time with the customer. The next one is the demo. The demo is your technology demo. If you're going to sell them on a technology, video, access control, intrusion, whatever, you should show them what it's going to look like. That also allows you to get more multi-threaded. Hey, Mr. Customer, I'm sure there's going to be multiple people in your business that are going to be using this technology. Would you mind inviting them so they can see this? This is not a sales demo. This is a technology demo. We want to make sure that this does what you want it to. And last but not least, pricing presentation. You want to present that pricing in person or over a virtual meeting. Do not email it to them until after you've presented it in person. Don't give in. Stay strong, my friends. Stay strong. Do not give in.
And what I want to interject here and say is, and Collin is going to jump through the screen. You dictate this process to your customer. The customer does not dictate this process to you. If you are letting them do that, you are acting out of desperation, not confidence. You define a sales process, you execute it. You define your sales process and you execute it. You don't get nervous, you don't get desperate, and you don't let them bend your process. You stick to your process, because if you have a good process, it should lead to a good outcome. So if you have no process, then you have nothing to utilize, which is what we're advocating for. And lots of people, they've hit revenue ceilings because there is no formal sales process.
That's right.
You just kind of are reactive. And if the customer says, if the prospect says, no, I have to have pricing today, you just jump. And they say, jump how high? Like, that is not going to lead to any sort of like mature, growing, healthy company. It's not.
Truer words have never been spoken. We're going to move to tools and technology that supports both the marketing and sales playbook. And here's the reason why. We've got so much more to share with y'all on sales playbook and marketing playbook and sales process and ICP. Future episodes, we're going to cover all that stuff. We're really excited about it. We could go on. Each one of those steps of the sales process could be its own pod. But we want to jump in to some tools and some tech. We talked about this on the last pod, but what we talked about was, how do you get what we would call a customer 360 or a POV, point of view of your customer? You want to understand your customer to provide personalized outreach and marketing. The only way to do that is if you have one system where all of your customer interactions are stored. For us, that's our CRM. Everything we have, every phone call, text, email, every web form, every single thing we have that is interactive with the customer is in a single place, which means we can derive really strong insights from a customer. I had a great conversation with a peer of mine at a conference I was at last week. And he said, hey, man, I listened to your pod and I've been needing to do this technology thing for a while, but it makes my head spin. I don't know where to start. It's too overwhelming. I want to do it. How do I snap my fingers and make it magically appear without spending $1 million? That's the magic question. And here's what it starts with. It doesn't start with technology. It starts with process. If you have technology, but you don't have a process, and you're not holding your team accountable to using that technology, it's not going to be effective for you. So you got to build the process, spend just a little bit of time developing your sales process and what the goal is and the training, and then go for the technology. And the obvious first place is your CRM. Just go find a CRM. Go find one CRM and store every single deal you have and every lead and every prospect, put it in the CRM, and then connect your email. That's your homework. For your first tools and tech stack is get a CRM, connect your email so that every time you or your team members send an email, it'll tag against that customer record. And if you want bonus points, you can get a phone system tied to it. And that may seem like a very overwhelming thing. You don't have to switch out your phone system for your whole business. You can just switch it out for your sales team. So those are some bonus points. We'll spend more time on tools and tech, but man, you got to start somewhere, starting with process and then going to technology is going to make you a lot more successful.
Hey, everybody knows that leads are tough to come by, but what if they weren't? Service Scalers is the no BS marketing team just for home service contractors. They run SEO, PPC, LSA, and GMB campaigns that actually bring in customers and not just clicks. They've delivered me tons of leads tied to real revenue, and they can do the same for you. If you sign a 12-month contract, your first month is free. Click the link below to get started.
I actually had a conversation this week with someone at a Fortune 500 company who, like, their sales team does not have a CRM. They do not have pipeline visibility. So they are a Fortune 500 company. So I say that to say you're not alone, but also it's not healthy. So it is one of those things that feels a little painful, feels a little nerve-wracking if you don't have experience. And yes, there's vendors and there's people, consultants and blah, blah, blah that can help you. You can reach out to us. We can give you advice. But you have to do something about it. You can't just let it be that thing over in the corner that you know that you should do something about. You never do. Again, if you think about growing your business, it's one of those things that's going to continue to hold you back.
Yeah, I'd also say don't stress about finding the perfect CRM or technology. Here's what I hear more often from my peers in the industry at conferences or whatever is, man, I wish I would have implemented or stood up any type of CRM 5 years ago. What I don't hear a lot is, man, 5 years ago, I wish I wouldn't have bought this tool. I hear that occasionally, but not a lot. A lot is, man, I just wish I would have done this earlier. So just start with something. You can grow into a bigger platform, but honestly, start with something that seems easy and consumable for you, because it's going to show you a whole lot of stuff that you want it to do. So I'll just give you an example. When we first started, like literally first month, I signed up for a little free online CRM and started using it, putting all of my customer information in there. And I very quickly, within the first 60 days, realized, okay, wow, it doesn't integrate to Gmail, which is what we use for email. It doesn't integrate to our phone system. It doesn't have a field service app. So I'll never be able to capture the field service stuff. So I was able to start building my dream wish list of what I wanted my technology to be, only because I started with something that didn't do the thing I needed to do. But guess what? I was able to take all that information and dump it into my new CRM, and it was not hard. It was not challenging, did not take a major lift. You could do it, or you could hire somebody to do it pretty quick, pretty easy, not super hard. So start making, this is a journey, not a destination. And you're not going to get to technology nirvana, because technology continues to evolve. So go ahead and set aside money for technology improvements. And I would start with that CRM and start with a process.
Which is a good segue. So let's talk challenges. You know, if you're listening to this, we're going to give you some homework, some action items. So we just were talking about technology. I think one thing to do is take an inventory of where are you today from a technology perspective. And if you're at just ground zero, you have nothing. I like what you just said. Start somewhere. If you're already along that spectrum, then it's more about assessing what gaps you have. Kind of like Collin's V2, what you were just saying. You know, what are the areas that you're not currently supporting areas of your business through whatever technology platform you're utilizing? So that's kind of first part of homework.
Yeah. Let's go back to where we were with the marketing stuff. So here is your kind of marketing and sales homework. There's a lot of homework I could give you. I could give you a final exam's worth of homework.
Let's not overwhelm them.
We're not going to overwhelm you. We're going to give you something tangible and tactical, because this is where you got to start. If you're going to take anything away from today's call, is I want you to niche down. So what is niche down? It means I want you to pick a niche, pick an industry, do the ICP exercise, either write it out, or even better, write it out and then do a couple interviews from some of your champion customers. Then get some social proof. Get them to just send you an email that just says, you send them the email and say, hey man, can you send this to me in an email? I'm going to blur out your name, but I'm just going to have your title exposed so that people can see that we work with XYZ title. Get some social proof. Get a couple snapshots, texts and emails. I would say 2 or 3 emails, 2 or 3 texts. Build a list. Go find a list that aligns with your ICP. It doesn't have to be long. Start with 25. Start with 25 prospects that fall within your ICP, and then build the value points. What did your ICP say during their interview, or what did you write down during that exercise that they valued the most? Write down 5 to 8 value propositions, or value points that align with that list. That's it. Start there. If you can do that in the next 7 days, 7 to 10 days, it should not take you longer than 2 hours maximum to do all of that. You are going to be tremendously better off for anything you decide to do, whether it's CRM or sales process, or if you're looking to onboard a new marketing vendor. You will have your marketing vendors drooling if you could provide them just those simple pieces of information, if they're not even asking you for them in the beginning. So that's your homework. That's your homework. Niche down.
It's kind of summarize: niche down, form an ICP, sales and marketing. We're talking about kind of multi-channel, not just one single way to go to market. Test, like we've done that a lot. You have to test it, especially if it's all new for you, right? And do small tests. It doesn't have to be an incredible amount of money that you spend, but whether it is an ad strategy, social, cold outreach of various kinds, mail, calling, email, get in the game. I think that's actually a big piece of this. Is if you are on the sidelines from a proactive sales and marketing perspective, it's like time to get in the game.
Yep.
And then differentiating between your leads process and your sales process, and forming a process if you do not have one, is kind of inherently a part of being a healthy, growing company in any industry, including this one. And ultimately, all of those practices are going to lead to better, higher volume qualified leads to improve your close rate, which will help drive and fuel your growth on the new logo side.
Yep. If you can focus on niching down, splitting out your sales process, and developing a kind of a tech stack, or starting with a tech stack, you're going to be in better shape today than you were yesterday. I just want to say this as a call out. You're not alone. There's a lot of folks out there that are trying to build this. We're not perfect. We're still trying to get better every single day. What we're sharing today is not stuff we're going to do or we want to do. It's stuff we've done, and it's been proven to work for us. And I bet you it'll be proven to work for you. And the last thing I'll say is, please reach out to us. We would love to provide answers to questions, give you some strategy. You want to bounce some technology options off of us. You want to know how to prioritize. Where should you put your time? Hit us up on LinkedIn, hit us up on Twitter or X. Send us a note. We would love to help out, provide some feedback. That's literally the only reason we do this. So let us know if we can do something to help. We appreciate it. As always, please like and subscribe to Entry and Exit. Thank you so much. Hope you all have a great week.